Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of our program. Happy to be here with you. We're live, we're national, and our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Big news today, President Trump welcoming a world leader to the White House, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pulling up to the White House with El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States. And the big announcement from today is that the United States will take over the Gaza Strip. Listen to this.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
The same way it's going to be for 100 years. Well, this is a lot, right? There's a lot here because, I think many Republicans oppose the idea of nation building, this and that, the other. I think there's also Democrats that hate this idea. And I think there's also some good that could come out of an idea like this because the idea of having a Mideast Riviera and Trump being involved in it, I tell you, not too shabby, right? Trump's a pretty good builder. He has a knack for putting really interesting and really beautiful properties together. But this is the deal that they've arrived at, and I think it's one that we have to listen to before everybody goes up in arms. And I know right now there's a lot of people up in arms all over it. But the reality is this place has been all but flattened, and something has to happen, right? So President Trump saying we will take over the Gaza Strip and saying, quote, we'll own it. Not saying that he'll own the Gaza Strip. I understand that to mean we're going to own this process, this rebuilding. Anyway, Trump said that all Palestinians currently living in Gaza, around 2 million people, should leave and be placed in other countries in the Middle East, among them Jordan, Egypt, and while the U.S. develops, during construction. Ministers of those and other Arab countries several days ago flatly rejected the idea of accepting Gaza residents. And they've been doing that throughout, if you'll recall, right? Nobody wanted to open up their borders. Everybody had a closed border while Biden's border was wide open. Everybody there, the neighbors to the Gaza Strip, said no. Gaza has pretty much been, like I said, flattened. And this is the result of the October 7th. That's a report coming out of CNBC. So that's the story on that. We'll get back into that a little bit later. There's also some stuff I want to get into tonight because I want to talk about a lot of things, right? You've got RFK Jr., who's made it to the next round of confirmations, right? Pam Bondi, absolutely in now as Attorney General. I think we have the vote on that. Let's listen to that.
On this vote, the yeas are 54, the nays are 46. The nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
All right. So that's that one. And the other thing, I just had it at the tip of my tongue, and now it has escaped my mind. Oh, boy. Anyway, we have that. We have some fallout from the Grammys, Kanye West being a what's the word? Party crasher? I think that's the word I'm looking for. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, as well as these confirmations, who's in, who's out. I also want to talk about everything that's happening with illegal immigration. Tom Homan, again, doubling down on what he will do to Governor Phil Murphy if he is, in fact, harboring an illegal alien. We'll get into that. I also want to talk about El Salvador. El Salvador is now saying that they will accept criminal, illegal aliens and anybody else that wants to come, because they have some of the best jails in the world. The President Bukele saying that. And that's a very, very interesting partnership that we have, because this is a guy who literally had one of the worst gangs ever in his country, Mala Salvatrucha 13, MS-13, and turned the whole thing around. And now it's, like you've heard President Trump brag time and again, their crime has gone down by 70%. Amazing, right? And again, even if these numbers are a little bit inflated or hyperbolic, the reality is a lot of that crime, these criminals were imported here, just like the Venezuelan criminals were imported here. So now the president there is saying, yep, no, we'll put them up. We have our version of Club Fed isn't as nice as the one in the U.S., and it's maximum security. So also very, very interesting. I want to get into that. Plus, I want to have some, conversation and analysis on a couple of different things. One of the things I want to talk about is DOGE, all right, the Department of Government Efficiency, and their decisions to put USAID into the State Department. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the critique on Elon Musk. What else do we have here? I mean, there's so much to get to here. And anyway, your calls. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We now have not only a quorum, but all members of the committee are present. I move that the committee favorably report the nomination of the Honorable Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. of California to be Secretary of Health and Human Services. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, the final tally is 14 ayes, 13 nays.
That, of course, is the committee vote to move RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy, forward to the full Senate for the advice and consent of the Senate vote on his confirmation as the nominee to lead HHS as President Trump's cabinet secretary. And, of course, that didn't come without the chagrin and the critique and the hating from Democrats and those on the left. Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat from Georgia, flat out said RFK Jr. is unqualified.
Donald Trump said that he was going to allow Mr. Robert Kennedy to, quote, go wild on health. Go wild. Of all the things that I can think of that I'd like to see a Secretary of Health and Human Services do, go wild is not on the list. Mr. Robert Kennedy is manifestly unqualified for the job he seeks. And in both my live and written questions for the record, he failed to commit to protecting access to affordable health care. He's unqualified, and I dare say everybody here knows it.
That, again, Senator Raphael Warnock. And to get some reaction and analysis, I want to go to a physician. We know her as America's psychiatrist. Dr. Carole Lieberman is a board-certified psychiatrist. She's written several books specializing in terrorism and helping those cope with terrorism. And she is our guest now. Dr. Carole, what do you think about this response to the initial first round of the RFK Jr. nomination confirmation?
Well, I have been in RFK Jr.'s corner for quite some time. I wrote letters to the two committees. I signed the petition, and I am totally for him. Now, the thing is that he is an atypical nominee. Yeah. And so the senators are kind of going wild because it's like confusing, and it's like, wait, why don't we have a doctor, or why don't we have, I don't know, a professor or something? And he, RFK Jr. does have, he's an attorney, and he does have a background, particularly when it comes to vaccines. He's been very outspoken and so on. But that is exactly, we need someone who is not the typical, because we need to get out the fossils. The medical, Health and Human Services, that whole department has become fossilized. And he needs to go wild. Now, I was very disturbed watching the Senate hearings when they were questioning him, because first of all, they took advantage. He has this speech impediment, a condition, where it takes him a longer time, and his voice is deep, and so it takes more energy to speak and so on. And they took advantage of that by trying to rush him along, and taking advantage of the fact that it takes him longer to get out some things. And they were just, it was horrible. They knew what they were doing. It was what would you call it? A prejudice, or it's just really awful. And then, of course, the people who were the worst were the ones who were getting the most money from Big Pharma. So he isn't against all vaccines. They keep trying. That's what they keep promoting. They keep saying he's against all vaccines. We're not going to have any vaccines if he gets to be confirmed. But he's not against, and he's been trying to tell them that, but it goes in one ear and out the other. And what he is against mandates, vaccine mandates. He doesn't think that anybody should be made to take vaccines, any vaccines, particularly the COVID vaccine. And I've been talking about that since COVID began, about how, I never took the vaccine. I didn't let my daughter take the vaccine. And as it's turned out, see, that is the thing that was kind of really incredible. Everybody knows, unless you're under a rock, there have been more and more cases of side effects, of people dying, people having cardiac problems, people having cancer related to the vaccine. So it is so absurd that they would, pretend that they don't know that and go after him this way.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. And I had not considered that aspect of it, of his speech impediment, and them trying to take advantage of that and kind of run out the clock, so to speak, or
right.
to kind of wear him down a little bit. But it doesn't surprise me. I think Democrats, I think anybody, honestly, politicians in general, they use absolutely every avenue that they can to kind of get their way. Now, I hear this, I don't see it as a bad thing, but I know I'm incredibly biased when it comes to this stuff. Trump and Senator Tom Tillis and others saying, go wild. Go wild. I think this is a good thing, no?
Yes. Trump doesn't mean, go crazy, do things that are bad for the health of America. He means, clear out what's bad in this institution. And like with a ban, maybe not abandon, but try to root out all the bad stuff in this institution. And that is true. That is what he should be doing. Now, Trump is really taking the world by storm here. He is doing so much in the first 2 weeks of his presidency. It's like people don't know whether to look right or left. Things are happening all around, and it's great. I actually was at the inauguration in Washington. It was wonderful. It was so. Oh, there was so much patriotism, singing American patriotic songs, and just cheering and all kinds of things. And he, of course, he signed, as you know, he signed a lot of executive orders there in the Capital One arena, and then he's been signing more and so on. And I think it's great. I think it's great that he's doing so much. I hope people realize that it's not like he came in on January 20th and sat down. Well, I mean, he did come in on January 20th and sat down and signed it. I saw him, but it's not like he made these up on January 20th. He and his crew, his advisors, have been working on these things for since the election, if not before.
Yeah, they've had a plan.
Yes. So, people who think, oh, look, he's going crazy, look at all these things he's doing one after the other. Well, yeah, he's been planning that out. And in fact, it was his platform.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Carole, I just to keep it on RFK, because I think it's I don't always agree with RFK, and I've had him on this program, and we've had some really good conversation. But I do think he is the right guy for this job, right? Apart from his view on abortion, which he's clarified that he's willing to stick with the president's vision on abortion, which I think is great. I think he has the knowledge and the experience in dealing with a very major problem that we have. And this was literally my lunch conversation today I was with my brother and my buddy that I go to the gym with. And over lunch, we were talking about each of them had their own health ailments. My brother had battled cancer a couple of years ago. And it was a very interesting thing because they both ended up on the side of, look, we constantly push the medical intervention from Big Pharma. And we really don't always try to make people healthy, and this is why this is so contentious. And I get it; that part is obvious.
Yeah.
The part that you brought up before, that those that are getting the biggest big pharma donations have been the most stalwart opponents of RFK. I think they're going to continue to be, and I don't think big pharma is going to go away, peacefully. So, how do you envision this being a physician?
What do you mean? Do I think he's going to get confirmed or not?
No, like moving forward, a Secretary RFK Jr. What does that look like in your world?
Well, he has a lot of things that he's trying to tackle, not just the vaccines, but his general plan is to look at the science. It's so ironic because Fauci, the lying scoundrel that he is. He kept saying, look at the science, and he was just lying through his teeth. And so RFK Jr. wants to look at the science for real and to make decisions and so on based on that. Other things that I like about, his platform, first of all, he wants to take away Biden's law or executive order or whatever it was that said that doctors who get any money from the federal government have to go along with gender affirming treatment. And that's outrageous. Gender affirming treatment is really dangerous. It has harmed, it's child abuse, and it's harmed, countless kids. So that's one other thing that, I don't think they talked about that very much. And I didn't hear them talk about it in the Senate hearings, but maybe they did. I didn't hear every word. But that's one of the things that I like. Also, they brought up school shooters. The things that he's been proposing, I've been talking about for years, and so of course that's why I like him.
Right. We'll pause right here, Dr. Carole. We'll come right back, and we'll resume on RFK Jr. going wild in the Department of Health and Human Services and the future of his confirmation hearing. Folks, we're coming right back with Dr. Carole Lieberman, America's Psychiatrist. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
President Trump has asked me to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America healthy again.
That, of course, RFK Jr. Just a few days ago at his initial hearing, or I should say confirmation hearing. And today, moving forward one round, and all sorts of people coming out of the woodwork. Here I have a clip of Senator Tom Tillis, again reiterating that this man needs to go wild at HHS. Check this out.
I hope he goes wild and actually finds a way to reduce the cost of health care. I hope he goes wild, and instead of having the discussions that we have had for the 10 years that I've been in the Senate of making Medicaid work and making people on Medicaid healthier, I hope he goes wild and figures out how to do it, because the status quo has not achieved much in the way of gain.
That against Senator Tom Tillis saying, go buck wild, RFK Jr. I want to come back to our guest, America's psychiatrist, board-certified psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman. And Dr. Carole, as we were just discussing about RFK Jr. going wild, this is, in my opinion, a good thing for America. When we look at this going wild, I guess, how much do you think he'll be able to get done? And I'm not saying I don't think he can. I actually do think he can. And I know that it's going to be difficult to fight the interests, the special interests, the big pharma lobby, et cetera. But how much do you think he'll be able to do in the area of Medicaid reform and other major agenda items?
Well, I was watching an interview today. It was a sort of an interview of someone who was I don't remember his exact title, but he was talking about the deep state and the people who work in the different departments in the government in Washington, D.C., and about how, not necessarily specifically about the Health and Human Services, but about how in general these workers are going to be, he admitted he didn't know he was being taped, but he said, we have ways of sabotaging people, Trump's people, getting their
clip. I know the clip you're talking about. It was a James O'Keefe report.
Yes, exactly. And that was pretty scary. I mean, it was great that he got that, But so yes, there are people who are. It was interesting. He said one of the ways that we do this is to tell the person, who Trump appoints, or like let's say RFK Jr. if it was regarding that. We tell them, yes, we're going to study vaccines, or we're going to study, whatever the topic is, and then we're going to make a committee to work on that. And then you can go 2 or 3 years not doing anything by saying we're studying it in the committee. So, and that's just one of the ways that he talked about that they can stall things from happening. So I think that we can't really underestimate how much, what there is to wade through. But I mean, RFK Jr. is, before people, I don't think a lot of people, hopefully the senators know this, but, a lot of people don't know that he has his whole career as an attorney. For the most part, it had to do with the environment, not global warming, but about, the pollution of waters and so on. And he's fought big companies, all his life as an attorney and for pollution and various things. So it's not like it's not like this is someone who's going to come in and be scared, to go wild.
Right. 100%. No, I think you're spot on there. This is somebody who's used to tussling with the powers that be and going for the jugular. And I think this is why I think he'd be a valiant disruptor in Washington. He's what we need there. Ideally, I think you need somebody, they don't have to have the same personality as Trump, but they have to have the same MO. I'm here to break the system. I'm here to make things better. And I think so far Trump's done an amazing job at picking people that are doing just that. Yeah. So that we could achieve that type of goal. Now, Dr. Carole, I want you to let everyone know how they can find you and keep up to speed with all of the amazing work that you're doing.
Well, of course, they can go to Twitter, which is where I rant the most, at Dr. Carole MD, so at Dr. Carole is CAROLE MD. One of my websites is terroristtherapist.com. or expertwitnessforensic.psychiatrist.com. I think that'll give people enough to amuse themselves.
Absolutely. Folks, check out Dr. Carole at any one of her websites, including drcarole.com. And Dr. Carole, I thank you for being here and for your analysis and opinions on this stuff, because I think it's a very interesting thing. And this is something you're in the thick of it, right? Whether it's helping people overcome the PTSD and the effects of terrorism, writing the book on it, literally, or being an expert witness, being on court TV and helping the rest of us understand what's going through the mind of the quote unquote disturbed people. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. It's always a breath of fresh air. I always learn so much. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
You bet. I'll talk to you soon, and Godspeed to you. Now, folks, we're going to come right back with the rest of your calls and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I'm honored that you invited me to be the first foreign leader to visit the White House in your second term. This is a testament to your friendship and support for the Jewish state and the Jewish people. I've said this before, I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
High praise from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi being the first foreign leader welcomed into the White House for Trump's second administration as the 47th president of the United States. And great. Right. Great to hear that he's acknowledging President Trump's leadership on what he did in the Middle East. Oftentimes, I think this is overlooked. People constantly downplay the impact and importance of the Abraham Accords. And I think this is not something that we should be overlooking. I think this is a huge achievement, right? You know, since I was a kid, people have been shouting peace in the Middle East. Now, I understand that there may not be peace today, but that's not anything to do with Trump, right? This is the recklessness of Joe El Baboso Biden. But leaving office and while in office, the Middle East was a safer place when Trump was in office. And I anticipate it's going to be a safer place with him back in office because of his policies, right? Not because of his haircut or his tan or anything like that. You know, I want to be serious here. This is about the approach that he's taken. This is the same approach that is getting serious accomplishments, serious results from Panama, from Canada, from Mexico. This is the seriousness that a president, any president of the United States, must have in their approach. In my opinion, it's a prerequisite. Yet it's what was absent for the last 4 years. So pardon me if I feel incredibly refreshed knowing that, as the left likes to say, the adults are back in charge. Anyway, I want to get to your thoughts on this. Let's hit the phones, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Boise, Idaho, KBOI. Paulie, what's up, my man?
Oh, thanks for calling me, Rich.
You bet.
I'm just grateful that Netanyahu made a safe trip to the United States and to find the open arms of number one, our president, Donald J. Trump, to be there and to know that he is loved and accepted here, and we wouldn't have it any other way for him. He needs to know that the American people love him. And, I think there was a number of us when the war was going on and raging that they were questioning whether or not it was lawful to do what he was doing And there was a lot of people that weren't getting to be able to answer that question and made a resounding yes. What he was ordering to have done was the right thing to do. And I cried like a baby when I found out what happened on October 7th.
Well, I mean, that's understandable, right? It was a horrific thing. I was really messed up, too, when I heard about little babies being slaughtered. I mean, you know, I'd never seen anything like that. You know, I guess it's my own naivete, perhaps me being a little soft here, but, you know, I'd only read about that stuff, right, during the Crusades and other wars where, you know, literally raping and pillaging, you know, the enemy's village. This actually happened 2 or 3 years ago. Blew me away, honestly. It really did. I didn't realize that type of barbarism still existed. I thought, you know, all wars were a little cleaner, you know, some drone strikes, you know, guns, that type of thing. And I don't mean to make light of it. It's really the incredulity, if anything, that makes me nervous laughter over here. It's crazy to me, Paul.
I would kindly say Kaddish for the poor souls of the Israeli people and the military that lost their lives doing what they needed to do to honor their countrymen, and also shalom.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. And well, very, very well put. Benjamin Netanyahu today in the White House. And President Trump also weighing back in on that, reiterating that the United States stands there, right, with shoulder to shoulder, saying that the United States and Israel will work together to restore peace. Number 20.
In our meetings today, the Prime Minister and I focused on the future, discussing how we can work together to ensure Hamas is eliminated and ultimately restore peace to a very troubled region. It's been troubled, but what's happened in the last 4 years has not been good.
I can't agree with that anymore. I think we've all seen that. What happened in the last 4 years in Gaza, what happened in the last 4 years with allowing Iran to just run amok and do what they do, being the largest state sponsor of terror. What's happened in the United States at our southern border, what happened at our northern border, what happened to the U.S. dollar, the inflationary pressure that's devalued it in so many ways, the rampant abuse at USAID. I mean, just incredible. And that's what we'll talk about when we come back. I want to get into this USAID stuff because Marco Rubio putting the kibosh on that, saying no more money. Yesterday, you heard some of the craziness that they were spending money on, including transgender opera in Colombia, right? Imagine that, amongst many other things. The week before that, it was $50 million worth of condoms for those in Gaza. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. So maybe we'll revisit that clip as well, because I can't get enough of hearing that one. The fact that those things are actually happening and somebody that's an adult, a responsible, serious adult, approves those things, either tells me, A, we have a lot of naive people, or B, these people are just flagrantly saying F you to the American people and doing whatever they want. Either way, we'll talk about that, plus your calls straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez live with you until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning in some areas. Happy to be here with you. Our telephone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And before the break, I promised I'd replay a clip that I played for you yesterday because I think it's so ridiculous and it's so crazy. And there's a lot of going on because the DOGE people are on a rampage, right? They're out there doing what they said they were going to do. Ensuring government efficiency is their mission. And remember, yesterday, Caroline Leavitt said that the reason that they have frozen these payments all over the place was to identify some of the crazy amounts of dollars and what they've been spending these dollars on. Listen to Caroline Leavitt yesterday outside the White House. What we're holding on for Caroline Leavitt talking about condoms. No, not condoms. Was it condoms? Yes, it was condoms. Condoms for Gaza?
Others have been taking a look, because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Sounds like a great plan to me. Now, let me tell you, I can't imagine why. If you are someone, let me put it this way. If you are someone that believes that we should be involved in this type of crazy, right? We should be involved in buying condoms for Gaza. We should be funding trans opera in Colombia, right? In a foreign country, right? Because all of this stuff is foreign aid, right? It's foreign aid going to these places. And I got to tell you, I don't believe for a second that's really happening. I think these are lies. I think they come up with something crazy to kind of like make fun of you, right? It's kind of like, where'd all your money go? Oh, well, let's see. Well, we decided to have the trans thing in Ireland, the trans thing in Colombia. That one's for opera. We have the condom thing in Gaza. Of course, that's important. I believe that this is a mockery of the American people. I don't think they're really doing anything with this money. I'm sure they're skimming it somewhere, just like President Zelensky, right? He had that clip that came out. I don't have a translated version of it, but he, in effect, says that he didn't get all this money that they're saying that they gave us. He's saying, I got some weapons, I got some support services, and I got some money initially, but it doesn't amount to what you're claiming, or your government is claiming that you sent. So in effect, it sounds like he's either saying Joe Biden is skimming off the top, or the folks at USAID, or both. Or, he skimmed it and is blaming it on them. Either or, no bueno, right? This doesn't make sense either way. But this is the situation that we've fallen into. So I'm thrilled when people are trying to pull up to their office today and they find the DOGE team there, right? And they're like, oh, I can't get into my office. I can't do this. I can't do that. I think this is an important thing, a very important thing. Anyway, straight ahead, we're going to talk more about DOGE. We're going to talk about, what else do we got? Oh, boy, the border. We've got the border. We've got AOC insulting Elon Musk. How's that for giggles? And, of course, we're going to have some additional conversation on what happens when the governor of New Jersey taunts the border czar, Tom Homan. He fired back again today, and we've got the audio on that as well. So keep it locked right here. DOGE, border, AOC, all out crazy, and so much more. Keep it locked right here, folks. It's Rich Valdez live with you till midnight, 1 a.m. Eastern in most areas, and our phone number, 833-482-5337. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you for another hour. And our phone number, if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation, feel free to give us a call. Open phones across America, and the last couple of segments of the program after the bottom of the hour, feel free. The number for that, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to go over a couple of things here, right? Because obviously the big news of the day, President Trump making his announcement with Prime Minister Netanyahu that the United States is taking over Gaza. We have a clip of President Trump making some remarks. Listen to this.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous, unexploded
Dismantling
bombs.
the dangerous is right. And, of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu also weighing in on that. Listen to this.
I believe, Mr. President, that your willingness to puncture conventional thinking that has failed time and time and time again, your willingness to think outside the box with fresh ideas will help us achieve all these goals. And I've seen you do this many times. You cut to the chase. You see things others refuse to see. You say things others refuse to say. And after the jaws drop, people scratch their heads and they say, he's right. And this is the kind of thinking that enabled us to bring the Abraham Accords. This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace.
So now we have the big news that Pam Bondi has been confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States. So congratulations, Attorney General Bondi. And this is a good thing, right? Because everyone's eager for Kash Patel to get in there and clean up house in the FBI, as am I. But the FBI, as we learned, and as we should have known always, they don't prosecute people, right? They investigate people, and it's the AG that does the prosecuting, right? Garland was famous for all of that stuff. So what's cool about this is that with a team like that, you're going to have an excellent investigator who's very well versed in the intelligence world, or what they call the intelligence community, and a very politically astute attorney general with a lot of experience as attorney general. And this, I think, she actually litigated an impeachment. I mean, this is a great place to be, I think, for the United States, with the right people doing the right thing. So I'm happy about this. I really am. And let's see, what else we got? Then we got the DOGE stuff. I can't wait to get into that conversation because there's so much going on. The government is run by so many unelected bureaucrats that for so long have had so much power to do whatever. Earlier, we had some conversations, and Dr. Carole Lieberman mentioned that the recent report from James O'Keefe from O'Keefe Media Group, OMG, of, I forget the guy's name right now, but a former White House guy under the Biden regime, who was bragging about how an experienced bureaucrat can, in effect, run circles around an inexperienced political appointee. And there's truth to that, because most people that are going to work with an altruistic view, right? They're like, hey, I want to do good. I want to do my best here. I want to do things well. The folks that comprise the deep state, the bureaucrats, the inner workings, right? These gremlins in the machine. These people, their purpose is to sabotage. they're hoping to do that. And, the proof couldn't be any clearer than these people when they're speaking candidly, when they don't think they're on camera, right? When they think they're on a date with some girl, and they start bragging about how, we could do that. We'll tie things up in a committee, and we'll do a study on this, and we will research it until 3 or 4 years go by before we take any action. This is exactly the type of gridlock and the problem that we've seen in Washington time and again. This has to end. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that we can end all bad things, right? I realize you can do a lot to police a neighborhood. You can do a lot to create rules that will make things better, regulations, laws. But you can't change the depraved heart of a corrupt man. That you can't do, right? And this is why there will always be crime, and this is why I think you need jails, and you need to be able to defend yourself against people that wish to bring you harm. So that being said, there's going to be some instances where DOGE may not be enough, where it's going to be maybe the long hand of the law, right? And actually prosecuting people. Now, listen, I'm the first one to say, nobody's going to jail. And I agree. In large part, we're not here to jail people, especially people that are abusing their authority. And it makes it very difficult to do that to somebody that has any type of qualified immunity. But some people, when you can prove that they've done things, when you get them red-handed, good. And you've got some FBI agents that were involved in the Mar-a-Lago documents case that have been removed and escorted from offices. Now, this is reported by Jason Walsh in dailyfetch.com. And these FBI agents involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid in that case, this is very good. They were escorted from their posts over the weekend after acting FBI director Brian Driscoll refused to release the names of the agents connected to the January 6th investigations and the probe into President Trump. Entire squads of FBI agents were removed from the New York office, the Miami office, and the D.C. office following Trump's appointment of Driscoll to lead the agency. How about that? We're not even waiting for Kash Patel to kick in the door, waving the 4-4, right? This guy Driscoll's already getting the ball rolling. Meanwhile, we've got Kash Patel. He's still undergoing his confirmation process, and those, questions will continue to fly at him. But Driscoll will be the guy that's holding it down until. Now, acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove ordered Driscoll to compile a list of all FBI agents who had been involved at any time in the January 6th investigations to determine whether further personnel actions were necessary. Here's what the memo to Driscoll stated. These lists should include relevant supervisory personnel in FBI regional offices and field divisions, as well as FBI headquarters. Driscoll responded by admitting that he himself had been involved in the investigation into Trump. We understand that this request encompasses thousands of employees across the country who have supported these investigative efforts. I am one of those employees, as is acting Deputy Director Rob Cassane. Now, while Driscoll expressed reluctance in compiling the list, he ultimately put together a list of 8 executives who were forced out. However, when a subsequent request was made for a broader list, including details for each employee's involvement, Driscoll refused to comply. The list of names reportedly include thousands of FBI agents. You have a lot of people who thought, I'll just do a couple of misdemeanor arrests, no big deal. But they did them, and now those people fully expect to be gone, one FBI source told the Washington Times. Ooh, they're quaking in their boots. And another who worked on these cases might also be gone, no matter how much they've done. Meanwhile, the fake news media are pretending the Mar-a-Lago raid and the January 6 persecutions never even happened. So, very interesting reporting here from the Daily Fetched, and I think this is a good thing. a good thing. Now, of course, critics are going to say, I told you Trump was going to go after his political enemies. No, they're investigating the investigators, right? This is, in effect, what was done when they did Russia, right? You have to do that. You have to, the burden of proof is on them to prove that these guys did the wrong thing. If they can't prove it, those guys get reassigned or whatever it is, but they're not going to go to jail. But should they find something, well, now we've got a problem. Well, anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the president of El Salvador, Bukele. This guy's been kicking butt and taking names. And he just announced to El Trompito in the United States, hey, listen, guys, if you don't want to use Guantanamo Bay for your crazy, ruthless criminal aliens, I've got some amazing jails here in El Salvador that can do the trick. So we'll get into that when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
An incredibly unusual offer made yesterday by the president of El Salvador to Secretary Rubio, who is visiting that country. The Salvadoran president offering to accept not just migrants from El Salvador, but also from any other country, or even to house American citizens convicted of crimes in Salvadoran jails in exchange for a fee paid by the U.S. Now, it is entirely unclear how interested or not the Trump administration is in the last part of that deal, but any plan to ship American convicts abroad would certainly end up with significant legal challenges.
That report, again, confirming what I just told you about the President Bukele offering the jail in El Salvador. And this is, again, the result of a meeting between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele in San Salvador yesterday. So I want to get some reaction to this from somebody who understands this type of issue very, very, very well. Victor Avila, he's a retired ICE Supervisory Special Agent. He actually survived a 2011 ambush by cartel members. He told us all about it when we spoke about his book, Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor Avila, welcome back, sir.
Great to be back with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So this, I can't say I'm surprised by it, but I didn't expect it. That's for sure. What do you think about Nayib Bukele saying, El Salvador is here if you don't want to use Gitmo?
Well, we're living in unprecedented times, aren't we? I mean, everything's on the table at this point. I think we should at least definitely take it under advisement because, listen, I think, first of all, Bukele has done an incredible job over there and cleaned up El Salvador like you wouldn't believe. It is incredible how he took the MS-13 gangs, especially, and other gang members too, but principally MS-13, and put these guys where they belong behind these cages and incarcerated them. And he has plenty of space, and he has plenty of room, and he's telling us, well, you have plenty of those bad guys in the United States, and I'm willing to take them. Here, the thing that looks promising here, if you will, is that we spent a lot of money in the United States incarcerating people anyway. And if you were going to incarcerate them, we would obviously save a lot of taxpayer money in doing that. But the point here is, when you look at the big picture, Rich, is that people are sick and tired of the crime surge that we've had in the United States for the last several years. We are just done with it. We want a secure community. We want public safety. We want our kids to ride their bikes without a problem. We want to be able to take a walk in a part of town that we are not able to go into anymore. We are sick and tired of that. I think that's what is a culmination of what's happening here, that people are asking for this. We want this to happen, and we're willing to do almost anything to get it. And in this case, it might be to have to ship up some of these hardcore criminals out of the country.
Wow. That is interesting stuff. And per the report we just heard, saying they would be met with some significant legal challenges. I don't know who would bring these legal challenges. I'm guessing the ACLU or whomever. But I do think that the idea of using Guantanamo Bay is an interesting one, and one that they've already started to utilize. According to the New York Post, the White House has already the Hill, not the New York Post, the Hill. The Trump administration began today flying immigrants who entered the country illegally to Guantanamo Bay as part of their plans to use the facility in Cuba to detain thousands of migrants. And Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the first flights from the U.S. to Guantanamo Bay carrying migrants that were not legal in the country started today. What's your thought on that, and how long do you think this will be kind of like the Khalid Sheikh Mohammeds of the world who've been there for 20 years? Are they going to be there forever? Is it a temporary thing? What can you tell us? What do you know?
No, I think that first of all, they're not just regular migrants, and I think we have to start getting away from that word.
Sure.
Because
I'm reading from the article, but I agree with you.
Yeah, but because there's different categories of illegal aliens. I'll tell you, in my 20-year career, you just can't compare some of them. But when we're talking about Gitmo, we're talking about the worst of the worst. And let me tell you, there are some really bad ones out there. Human traffickers that have done some horrible things that I, in my career, saw them do to kids and women that we rescued. They do belong there because they don't belong in a regular state prison or federal prison in our states. Another category here are the illegal aliens that are dealing with and interacting almost on a daily basis with cartel members. And who are the cartel? They're foreign terrorist organizations now, because President Trump has designated them as such. That means that if you are financing or you're interacting with a terrorist organization just like ISIS, you're not going to federal prison, you're going to Gitmo, because now you are a terrorist. And this is the type of, I think, deterrence that hasn't existed in a long time when it comes, when it comes to criminal justice. I used to be a parole officer, and I remember, the rate of recidivism amongst the offender, and they continue to commit crimes, and there's always this question: what makes you stop? What is it going to take? And everybody talks about this deterrence, but the deterrence really doesn't even exist. You could have an argument about the death penalty and many other issues, but really this time I think either El Salvador or Gitmo is really going to make people think, wait a minute, I don't want to interact with a terrorist organization. I'm not a terrorist. I'm just a doper, pushing drugs and fentanyl at a school here, and I'm going to have to stop doing that because I don't want to be categorized and be sent to Cuba. So this is why, what I mean is that this is why we're having to experiment with these new different types of policies, if you will, because something has to change here. We need to get the attention of the criminal in our communities, especially the one that is here illegally committing horrific crimes. And let me tell you, right now, ICE and DHS and all the other agencies that have been deputized are going to have their hands full because there's a lot of them in that category.
Speaking of deputizing, the Texas National Guard has been activated to help with the arrest of people at the border. We're going to get to that with our guest, Victor Avila, retired ICE Supervisory Special Agent. Folks, it's Rich Valdez. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
So glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The Texas National Guard will now be participating in the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. Governor Greg Abbott announced the move on social media. His post on X saying, "In an agreement I signed between Texas and Trump's Customs and Border Protection, the Texas National Guard is granted the power of immigration officials to make immigration arrests, effective immediately. This boosts manpower for border security." Abbott previously launched Operation Lone Star in 2021 to increase enforcement along the Texas border with Mexico. It was a joint operation between the Texas National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety. Thousands of National Guard soldiers then took part in the push. According to Newsweek, the state spent more than $13 billion to fund it. This new agreement would grant soldiers the authority to conduct roving patrols and fulfill the duties of an immigration agent, provided they are accompanied by a federal immigration officer or border patrol agent.
That is Greg Negrelli, Straight Arrow News. And, man, it's about time. That's something Joe Biden could have done, Joe El Baboso Biden, and he did nothing. Anyway, I want to get reaction to that from somebody who spent a long time on the border, somebody who got into a whole shootout fighting for his life with the cartel at the border. Victor Avila is with us. He is a retired ICE supervisory special agent who survived an ambush by cartel members, and he's the author of the book Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor Avila, when you hear this news about Governor Abbott striking a deal with the Trump administration and all of the border agencies to deputize Texas National Guard to work as border agents, your thoughts?
Music to my ears. It's just incredible that, and you're right, this could have been done a long time ago, but obviously first of all, they don't think that way because they don't think of and I'm talking about the Biden administration, they don't think of putting us first for our safety. But in Texas, you mentioned Operation Lone Star, which they were trying to maintain as much as they could with the human smugglers and the dopers and everything that was coming through. But it was just too much. Now, this is a game changer. Now you're giving them the authority to actually detain these individuals. And the troopers actually have been trained on the job duty training here for the last several years. So they've got that pretty good. However, the best news is the National Guard, because I spent a lot of time down there at the border with them, talking to these young kids. They're 22, 23 years old. They were so frustrated because they had all their equipment. They had the Humvees. They're ready to roll, but all they could do was observe back then. And this is what changes. Now you're giving them the authority to chase, to detect, to interdict individuals that they're still going to want to come through, Rich. I mean, I'll tell you what, Texas is fortified right now. We got Border Patrol, we got National Guard, we got DPS troopers, we got ICE. The cartel is going to have to figure something else out because they are going to try to have to do it the smuggling way and smuggle the drugs and they're not going to be able to walk it across like they've been doing for the last 4 years. However, I think they're going to shift their focus up to New Mexico, Arizona, and California because the problem over there is that we have governors that will not participate with the federal government, and you're going to see that big difference between the states. And when people, I'm talking the rest of the country, realize what's going on in Texas is going to be safe, but the others are not, just because the governors of those states won't cooperate with the federal government, you're going to have I hope you have long, hard, and strong, loud voices of the community coming forward and demanding that their elected officials represent them, which I think is their number one responsibility, is public safety, right, and national security, especially Arizona, which is, Fentanyl Alley, New Mexico. A lot of people never really talk about New Mexico, but there's a lot of open areas that they come through there, and I think the cartel is going to shift that way. And since Mexico is now going to send 10,000 troops, I want them on those 4 states, New Mexico, or 3 states, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Let's use them where we need them. We know where the spots are where they come in. Let's have Mexico hopefully do the right thing and put their personnel and their military and those places where the cartel is going to struggle, because something's going to happen here, Rich. As you notice already, there's going to be a clash here, and the cartels are not used to this clash, especially in the last 4 years where they've had carte blanche to do whatever they want. All of a sudden, something's going to give here, and even Tom Homan said it today, and when I was watching him, I'm like, I've been saying it as well. There's going to be a reaction from the cartel. There's going to be violence. This is how these guys react. I know firsthand what these guys are capable of. And this is why our military is so important on the border, because we have to be ready to react. Now, they're gonna poke, the bear here, and they got to be very careful in Mexico This is where you're going to see how much control do the elected officials in Mexico, starting with the president all the way down to their local officials, how much control do they actually have over the cartel, which I tell you they don't. That's my opinion, but we're going to see. The next 30 days, we're going to tell if, in fact, they're going to be able to hold them back. And I have a feeling they're not going to be able to, and something's going to happen. I mean, they're launching drones with bombs. They killed a Mexican a rancher on the other side of Matamoros, on the other side of Brownsville, Texas. He stepped on an IED and blew himself up and killed him. And the Mexican military went over there and found a bunch of IEDs on the Mexican side. These are terrorists that we're dealing with. And until the general public understands the level of sophistication and barbarity of these cartels, they're not drug pushers anymore. These are terrorists that have terrorized not only Americans and killed them with the poisonous fentanyl, but the citizens of Mexico have been terrorized and extorted and kidnapped and murdered for many years. They're sick and tired of it as well. And so when Mexico pushes back, I don't understand why they would push back, because the solution is to benefits both countries to get rid of the cartels. But it almost seems like they want to protect the cartels, kind of like the same thing in the U.S. They're protecting
like Joe Biden
illegal,
did.
Yeah, and protecting the criminal illegal alien in the U.S. Why would you choose that? How does that benefit anybody? As a matter of fact, cleaning up the streets and getting them from the jails where we need to get them, where they're at, a lot of these sanctuary cities won't give them to us. Is going to be a fight. You'll see that coming forward. But when it comes to Mexico, I've been saying it for a long time, they play a major role. Let's not forget that millions of people from all over the globe came through their country, and they allowed them to come into ours. They have very strict immigration laws in Mexico, and there was no enforcement when the enforcement was much needed. They could have backed us up, and they could have said, don't worry, we got you. We're not going to let these people go through. But they didn't. They allowed the cartels to enrich themselves. A lot of people enriched themselves with the movement of people and money, and China as well, and all of these things that happened. And now all of a sudden, Mexico is not going to have a choice. And the ultimatum is on the table, and President Trump said it very clearly. I'm giving you 30 days, and let's see what happens. And I have a feeling the tariff, we're going to be talking about these tariffs once again, and possibly really implement them this time.
Now, Victor Avila, here's my thinking, and you tell me if I'm onto something or if I'm crazy. Because I think like this. People that sell drugs and traffic people, they're in this business for money, right? This is not an ideological thing. They don't believe that little kids need to be used for labor. They just believe that little kids make them money. They believe that trafficking fentanyl makes them money. When the money dries up because it's harder to get things across the border and they can't get over the wall, they're going to try and go under the wall. There's always been tunnels there, so there's tunnels that we have to worry about. The other part of this is, let's say Mexico doesn't do their job, as you're predicting, that they're going to be soft on the cartels. Is it safe to assume that the cartels really want a war with, like, I don't know, Navy SEALs on the U.S. border because they're considered FTO now, a foreign terrorist organization? Or they're going to try and make a deal. I look at this and I think if Mexico's turning a blind eye, it's likely because these cartels are using violence, intimidation, and leverage on the leaders, or maybe they're all complicit in it. If that's the case, then should we expect to have an armed face-off with the Mexican military, the cartels military, and the United States?
Well, first of all, to your first point about, the money, absolutely, you're 100% right. That's their ideology. Money equals power, and they need a lot of it, and they do have a lot of it. The designation as foreign terrorist organizations does this. A lot of people don't know this part of it. They think it's just military, but what it does is go after their assets. We're going to start freezing every single bank account, boat, property that they have in the United States. That's going to start hurting them. And then, like you mentioned correctly, the limiting the movement of the illicit activities is going to hurt them as well. And here's the thing: these criminals, these criminal organizations, as smart as they are, and as the intelligence that they have and that they function with, they're clouded. They're clouded by the money. They're clouded by the power. They're clouded by this. That I think that they believe that they have an opportunity to take on the U.S. government, they're not going to put their hands up. These guys are savages. They burn people alive. They skin people alive. They play soccer with human heads. They're barbaric, and they're not going to do it. They'd rather die with whatever ideology and loyalty they have. It's not to the. By the way, their loyalty is not even to Mexico. It's not to their government. It's not to their flag. Their ideology is maybe to the cartel, because they're the ones that have protected them, and to the money. That's what they're loyal to. And so, if they want to challenge us, and I strongly believe, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm telling you, I hope I'm wrong. That challenge is going to come in the form of an attack on our border agents or something like that. They're going to feel the wrath of the United States, not just in the cartel, but like you said correctly,
Victor, I want
government.
to follow up on that, because that's exactly what I'm thinking, but I have to take a pause here. Stick with me for a couple of minutes. Folks, we're coming right back with Victor Avila from ICE.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Victor Avila, retired ICE Supervisory Special Agent. Victor was ambushed by the cartel and survived that attack back in 2011, and he wrote a book about it, Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor, I want to, again, circle back to where we left off, because it was getting really good, the conversation. It's been great throughout, honestly. And you were pointing out that Mexico will fail to defend their side of the border, allowing things to get through in Yuma sector and New Mexico. And if that happens, then the United States may have to retaliate, especially if there is some sort of drone attack on our border people. Mind you, we've got the military already at the border. To me, this sounds like a suicide mission, but again, it could happen, right?
It could happen, and the visit by our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, to El Paso and Fort Bliss yesterday, really, we have to start paying attention. Why is the Secretary of Defense down there? First of all, the designation of the cartels as foreign terrorist organization allows DOD resources. That's one of the biggest ones. Now, DOD, DHS have joined together, which you're going to see this force multiplier. By the way, we're already flying openly, not covertly, over Mexico and the U.S. border. This is what they're reporting, that this is what it was allowed, and Mexico has allowed this to our U.S. military to fly above, because we need to start really protecting ourselves from these drones that are deadly, possibly deadly to one of our agents on the line. And in the cartels, they have weaponry. They're highly sophisticated, but when you really bring, you want to compare apples to apples, they're no match for our U.S. military, especially when it comes. I'm not talking about attacking them initially, but remember, they have over 100 super labs in Mexico making methamphetamine and the pills, the fentanyl pills that are killing Americans. Let's not forget the victims, the hundreds of thousands of victims that have died at a poisonous pill filled with fentanyl made in Mexico with the help of China. This is where we at today. I've met with so many victims of crime at the hands of an illegal alien, plus the ones that lost their daughter or their son or their loved one because they took a pill that didn't know it contained fentanyl. We have a big issue here.
I know people personally, sure.
Yeah, yeah, but Rich, this is where we have to be. I know that we have to be diplomatic about it. There's a lot of diplomacy, believe me. In the next 30 days, they're going to be pushing hard against Mexico. And Mexico is going to have a very, very difficult decision to make here. It's an easy decision, actually, but here's what I've been hearing, is that Mexico is saying one thing to the public because they're very proud people, and they don't want their sovereignty to be interfered with, and blah, 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 and all that. I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing it, actually. But below that, they actually do want the help of the government. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of good
I'm pretty
people.
sure they're cheering on Trump.
They want the help. They really want the help. And so the government is caught between the cartel and the people and the money and the power, and they're going to be between a rock and a hard place. And we're going to find out which direction they're going to decide to go, because we could tell you there is no doubt that the U.S. government is at a level that has never been before. I've never seen Marines, active Marines, on the board the way they are now. And this is where I think we need to change our mentality here, Rich, as we go forward. It's not the way it used to be. Even the way I used to investigate drug dealers when I was a drug agent and identified you and followed you in your bank account and and it took me 18 months to take you and your crew down. Those days are over. We don't have that type of time anymore. We need to change our strategy against these guys, because what I'm concerned with, really, Rich, is the cartel members that are in the United States.
Well,
the ones in
agree
Mexico,
with you.
we know they're there.
I think there are plenty in the United States. I think there are several jails in Arizona and other places that are run by the cartels inside the jails. And I think we have there's a lot. They have a lot of infiltration here. But one thing I do believe, Victor Avila, is that if they make that first move, I really just see a bunch of Blackhawks or whatever we'll use to target these hundreds of labs and blowing them up. And it doesn't look like a good ending for the cartel. I'm hoping that they're smarter than that, and that's not how this ends up. I'm out of time here, brother, but I want to thank you for being here. Folks, check out Victor's book, AgentUnderFireBook.com. Victor Avila, tell everybody where they can find you online.
Follow me on X at Victor Avila TX and Instagram at Victor Avila JR Jr. Thank you so much, Rich, for having me back.
My pleasure, brother. I'm going to call on you again in about a week or so for a follow-up on this, because I think you've got your ear to the ground, and I appreciate your expertise.
Absolutely, sir.
God bless you, my brother. Folks, we come back. Your calls and more right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, getting to all of your calls now and in the forthcoming segment. And I want to go to Eduardo, who's been holding on the line from Tampa, Florida, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Eduardo, quickly, go for it.
Yeah, Rich, I saw on Telemundo where on the Mexican side they're showing the National Guards. They're going to be in 5 regions right there by the border. They were showing a map on television. So it looks like she's holding to her word right now. We'll see how long she keeps them there. That would be the question.
Yeah, and the effectiveness, I think, is really what comes into question. You know, will they be able to stop what's going on, or is it just for show? You know, because I think that's a big issue, and something that retired Special Agent Avila pointed out was that they've got Texas on lockdown, so it's now these other vulnerable areas are going to be where they begin to exploit. So I'm curious to see if that happens. And look, I'm hoping that this ends better than I anticipated, but I think this might actually get very ugly before it gets any better. Thank you, Eduardo. I appreciate the call. Let me see. Oh, there it is. I wanted to go to my buddy in Charleston, South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you don't mind holding with me, we're going to come back and get to you momentarily. Illinois in the building, WLS, WTMA, WRNN. Folks, open phones across America. We've got more to come straight ahead. Your calls, plus some conversation on DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Keep it locked right here, folks. It's Rich Valdez, and we're coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday night. We're live, we're national, another hour of programming for you. Here's our number if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ, and DOGE. That's what's going on. A lot of other things, of course, some foreign policy stuff. Netanyahu pulling up to the White House with El Trompito, the prime minister and the president, sharing matching podiums today at the White House. And Bill Gates also on the Today Show today because he's got some reaction to what's going on with DOGE. But I want you to hear a little bit of what's happening with Bill Gates, because apparently Bill Gates is coming out of the woodwork. He's taking a break from using small children on the continent of Africa to test his vaccines and his latest quest to save the world, to come and criticize Elon Musk, who's trying to save America, along with El Trompito and the rest of the crew. Here he is with Savannah Guthrie giving his opinion on Elon Musk. Check this out.
What do you think about Elon Musk? Okay, you have history too. As the kids would say, you've got beef. Okay, you've had your ups and downs as well. You recently said that some of the stuff he's doing with far-right politicians overseas is insane stuff, bleep. Knowing Elon as you do, are you comfortable with the amount of power he's wielding inside the U.S. government right now?
Well, I admire the great private sector stuff he's done. You know, SpaceX, Tesla, both amazing companies. I think in the case of USAID, he doesn't appreciate the phenomenal work that goes on. It's not partisan work. It's nutrition. It's avoiding.
He says it's beyond repair.
Well, I give billions of dollars to the same thing that USAID does. I go out in the field and study these things. I hire scientists. And so, I think if he really knew the work there, he wouldn't be telling 10,000 people not to come and do that work.
I think he would, because his whole goal here is to get this USAID work out of the federal government. As I spoke yesterday with Victoria Coates, former Deputy National Security Advisor in the White House in the first Trump administration, and my statement to her was pretty simple. I said, I believe that this foreign aid that we give in so many situations is nothing more than a bribe, right? We use bribes and threats. That's the foreign policy that we've used in the United States. And I guess there's space for both, but they don't have to be that type of bribe and that type of threat, right? It doesn't have to be the type of bribe where you say, look, we're going to send you money for absolutely whatever insane project you've got. We'll foot the bill. Don't worry about it. We'll take it out on the back of every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's, working a blue-collar job and their tax dollars. And the threat doesn't have to be, or we'll bomb you, and there'll be nothing left. There's an in-between where the bribe is, hey, look, we can make money together, like El Trompito, the carrot and the stick. And the threat can be, or I'll put a severe tariff on you. I mean, look at what Trump is getting done without having to threaten nuclear warfare on everybody. People are playing ball. Something in the last 14, 15, even dare I say 20 days. And it hasn't been 20 days, right? I don't think so. But I guess we're getting close to that. Since the 20th of January. And wow, right? Just wow. I'm impressed. So we can use a different bribe and a different threat. But Bill Gates saying he doesn't understand. No, I think he understands full well that we're giving $50 million to condoms in Gaza. We're giving $47 million to Trans Opera in Colombia. And those two just happened to stand out in my mind. But there was a slew of them. A whole list of them. And this is the part of where I think, man, we're just on different pages, right? You got one billionaire who understands that we can't be in that business. And another billionaire, Gates, who thinks it's our responsibility to be in that business. He thinks everybody's as rich as him, or we can just start giving this money away because they're taking our money. He's like, well, I'll give you some of my billions, and the ones meet me halfway, and the other half will be on the backs of the American people. No, sir. No, thank you. I'm not interested. Not interested in USAID. Everything they did in Ukraine when Biden was vice president, the whole Bureaucracy thing, USAID was the main culprit there. Absolutely not. I'm not interested. Now, when you look at this, it seems like Gates is, kind of jealous. And he's like, oh, he doesn't understand. I do all this stuff to help. The whole point of DOGE is government efficiency, not understanding the field and donating billions to help save the world's problems. That's not it. So, yeah, my hope we won't have a USAID anymore. And I'm glad Rubio's taken over and he's become the de facto director of it. And I hope he shuts the whole thing down. You help when you're able to. And many times, helping is helping to pass the hat around so that others can get involved in the helping process. Not being the only helper. That's why I love Trump's approach to NATO when he said, hey, look, we're paying more than anybody else. What's good with that? Yeah, that's right. So good on them. And another cool thing about this DOGE thing, Trump offers the federal government a buyout. 20,000 people have already taken the bait here. At least 20,000 people have accepted Trump's government buyout offer. That's fantastic. Employees still have until February 6th, that's 2 more days, to accept the offer to resign and get paid through September. And sources told The Hill the number of resignations is expected to increase sharply ahead of the deadline at the end of this week. This is according to Axios. And they first reported that the 20,000 figure, which amounts to roughly 1% of the federal workforce, it should grow. The Trump administration offered 2 million employees the opportunity to resign. And, I think that offer should be taken seriously by a lot of people because the rest of them might get, they might get kicked out, right? I saw a clip earlier. I sent it to Count Delacula. I don't know if he was able to get it, but you have some people that are trying to get into their government offices and the cops are there telling them they can't get in. Do we have that clip? Count, can you hear me? It came in an email probably about an hour ago. But anyway, I guess we don't have it. But my point is, this is a very, very important conversation that has to be had and continue to be had. Shrinking the size of our government. And guess what else happens? While we the people gain more power because the government's getting smaller, obviously, the commutative law of multiplication and addition, right? The deep state gets weaker as we reduce the size of government. That's the part that I love. Not only does the power come back to the people by virtue of the government becoming smaller, but you also have less places for swamp creatures to hide and less things for them to do. And that is music to my ears. So we're going to continue our conversation on DOGE and everything else that's going on straight ahead. We have a great guest coming in to talk about that. Plus your calls and more are coming up after that. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
You have experience and skills in interviewing or you wouldn't be on your program.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
But Elon Musk's influence is sweeping throughout the administration. It was late last week that the DOGE team showed up at USAID offices in Washington and demanded access. USAID employee Christina Dry described the scene.
DOGE was in the building.
We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking. We heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets. They unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys. It didn't feel good. And then Saturday, all of the websites went down, and then I lost complete access to my computer.
So that's what's going on with folks at USAID. Of course, Trump freezing things, Secretary Rubio now overseeing everything that's going on there. And these are all good things, in my opinion. But I want to dig into this because I think it's an important conversation to have. I want to bring in our guest, Mark Moyar, who's the chair of military history at Hillsdale College, who has some understanding on this. Mark Moyar, welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be with you again.
Likewise. So talk to us. I know that your name has been thrust into this conversation on shrinking the government and DOGE and the efforts of the DOGE committee. What can you tell us?
Yes, well, I was a Trump appointee in the first Trump administration, and I was there, I was new to the agency and didn't really know what I was getting into, and I quickly encountered corruption, and I said, well, we probably should do something about it. It seemed reasonable. But then what ended up happening was that the bureaucrats came after me. They did not get rid of the corrupt people. Instead, they came after me and accused me on false charges, and eventually I got terminated, and I have sued to get the information that they claimed they had against me. This was 5 years ago now, and I'm still in court waiting. And so I've seen from the inside that, a lot of the problems you're seeing, they've been doing outrageous things for a while. But part of that is because there's a culture of impunity there. And so I think the new administration has figured out they've got to take more drastic measures to root that out.
Now, I'm taking a look at an article by Miranda Devine, where I understand she's quoting some of your thoughts on dealing with the deep state and how they work. Walk us through that if you're familiar with the article.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of things at work here. So one thing to keep in mind, it's certainly at USAID, you have some senior bureaucrats who think that they are smarter than the rest of the country, and it doesn't really matter who the president voted for or who the people voted for. And so they're going to do what they want to try to advance their own agendas. Part of it's ideological. There's something that came out today that said 97% of the USAID employees contributed to Democrats in the last campaign. Some of it's just personal corruption. The corruption I identified was a case of a bureaucrat who was working for the government at the same time was chairman of the board of a company that was getting government contracts, which you're not supposed to be able to do. And that problem, unfortunately, is far too widespread. And you have this revolving door between the contract world and the agency. And unfortunately, the first time around, we also had some political appointees who were willing to go along with this. Unfortunately, this time it's clear the political appointees are not going to stand for any of this, and are using a much sterner approach.
Now, in your role with President Trump that first go-round, you were in USAID's Office of Civilian Military Cooperation. Is that right?
Yeah, I was the director of the office, and our main purpose was to coordinate with the Department of Defense, because a lot of parts of the world, especially where it's not safe, they're supposed to get along. Now, what we had seen under the Obama administration is the agency didn't really want to have anything to do with the military because they tend not to like the military. So our job was to solidify those relationships, make sure we're actually working together as one team.
And part of what happened with you was that you discovered a bunch of fraud and waste and corruption. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And, one of the most disturbing things is when I started saying things about this and saying, we should probably do something, I was told, well, it's nice you want to do something. very unusual here. People generally don't speak up about this stuff. They
Right.
keep their mouth shut because they don't want to get in trouble. And I didn't fully appreciate that until, in fact, I did
You got in
become
trouble.
the target. Yep, exactly.
Unbelievable. And so I'm guessing a lot of this doesn't come as a surprise to you, does it? That people are freaking out that Elon is, coming in there and Trump is coming in there and Rubio's coming in there with, magnifying glasses saying, no, enough is enough.
Yeah, well, it certainly doesn't surprise me, and it is long overdue. What we saw in the first Trump administration was consistent efforts by bureaucrats to conceal things from the political appointees, and then, of course, you had 4 years of Biden where they put back in a lot of the crazy programs that had been rooted out the first time, all these DEI programs, transgender awareness programs. So now we've got all those. Now there's a huge amount of records on those. And it was very telling. A few days ago, they went to the Office of Security, which is responsible for a number of things, including security clearances. They also do the vetting of partners. So they're supposed to be the ones who tell us if our money is actually going to terrorists. And the bureaucrats there tried to prevent them from accessing the information, and ultimately they had to threaten to call in the U.S. Marshals. And that office itself was some of the corrupt people there were involved in coming after me. So I'm very pleased to see that their records are now available because I'm sure they're going to provide a lot of information about whistleblower retaliation, and also pretty clear that they have been the past USAID efforts in the Biden time have been supporting groups with terrorist ties, particularly in Gaza and Afghanistan.
Man, now in the minute or so we have remaining, Mark Moyar, I want you to, tell me, what do you think happens here? Do you think we'll be able to really right the ship, or is this just a drop in the bucket?
Well, I do think that with what's happening now, there's just been an announcement they're putting the whole staff on leave. I think they're going to, go back in and say, okay, what's actually useful and valuable here, and we will bring that back. In the first term, it was a much less concerted approach. The administration wasn't nearly this well prepared. I do think, fairly soon they can identify the worst programs. Some of it's just very obvious, this DEI, opera and transgenderism. But there's more that can be done, certainly, in this regard.
Outstanding. Mark Moyar, I want to thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. Folks, check out Mark Moyar and his book, Masters of Corruption, How the Federal Bureaucracy Sabotaged the Trump Presidency. And get a copy for yourself and one to give away. Mark Moyar, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, amigos, we come back with your calls and more. Open phones across America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
15% of American youth are now on Adderall or some other ADHD medication. Even higher percentages are on SSRIs and benzos. We are not just over-medicating our children, we're over-medicating our entire population. Half the pharmaceutical drugs on Earth are now sold here. 70% of the profits from pharmaceutical companies are from the United States, even though we only have 4.2% of the world's population. Not only that, but a recent study by Cochrane Collaboration founder Peter Ghosh found that pharmaceutical drugs are the third largest cause of death in our country.
Third largest cause of death in our country, pharmaceutical drugs. Let's go to the phones on this stuff. I want to hear your thoughts. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to go to Robert, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to suggest that actually the best way to avoid the problems with side effects is to look into homeopathic solutions. A lot of times there are homeopathic.
Do you have any thoughts on RFK?
Excuse me, what about RFK?
Hang on. Let's go to Steve, Muncie, Indiana, streaming on WLS. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm a truck driver. I listen to you at night quite a bit.
Thank you. And your thoughts? What do you want to say tonight?
I've been listening to what you've been talking about, and I'm all for these cuts, and I'm glad they're bringing this stuff out in the open, and I hope that they can have some kind of an effect. I'm really just a nobody. I'm a truck driver, but I'm one of the guys that pays for all this stuff. I hate seeing all the money wasted.
You and me both.
Tariff stuff, I think it's a great tool. I think it'll help Mexico. They need to take control of their country again, and moving troops up to the border area and rooting out some of the stuff that's going on around there isn't going to hurt Mexico at all. And as far as China goes, listen, it's a really tightly controlled country. There's no way that this stuff is being manufactured and the Chinese government doesn't know about it. I'm sure they can put some pressure if they want to on this problem. I'm not sure, of course they got to save face and all that, but I think nothing but good can come from any of this. I'm impressed, and I hope they can get in there and pull all this stuff up by the roots. And as far as the people retiring, I've got a friend that's got a sister that is taking advantage of that. And as far as the drug problem thing goes, my friend, I have a lady friend who had a little boy come to her home looking for help because he couldn't wake up his mother, and there was a baby there. She went over there and discovered that the mother had died of a drug overdose. I mean, a lot of these people don't realize the damage that's been done, and nobody's really tried to do it up to this point. I'm really impressed and that they're at least trying. Something's got to be done.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you, Steve. And I want to say, you downplay yourself. I think truck drivers, and there's so many important people, truck drivers, train conductors, people that are moving things around the country. So many Americans play such a vital role in every part of our supply chain, and none of us should be downplayed. It's a very, very important role. So many of us don't eat if you don't pull up your rig to deliver whatever you're hauling. So thanks for what you do, my brother, and I appreciate your thoughts. Thanks for calling in and for tuning into the show. Let's continue. I want to go to Todd in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Todd, go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, Rich. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to say regarding RFK Jr., that the same people lecturing him about science are the same people that think there are 50 different genders. And as far as, his comments on pharmaceuticals being the third leading cause of death, just look at the fentanyl that's being made into fake Xanax and Percocet and everything else. That's pharmaceutical being done by the cartels. So I'm so happy that he made it through. And
he's halfway through, right? He's got to go through the full Senate. But I feel like he's going to make it through. And I think you raise a good point. You're right. There's a lot out there, and these I'm going to call them counterfeit pharmaceuticals. That has to stop. We can't have that. And I understand that there's a demand for that, right? Supply and demand. I get it. As long as there's little kids that want these types of drugs, or adults or whoever it is that wants them, they're going to bring them here. But we've got to do a better job decreasing the demand so that we can decrease the supply, because this isn't working. Todd, thank you for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. WGKA Atlanta, Georgia. Folks, we're coming back with more calls from Illinois and elsewhere. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The truth for America at night is Mr. Rich Valdez. I'm telling you, Jim and Larry, be damn proud of you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education.
That is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett yesterday saying that Republicans don't want black Americans to have an education. She went on to say that they don't want to fund HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. Meanwhile, Trump actually, I think, has the record for the most funding of HBCUs from his last term, and garnered an incredible amount of black American support because of that. But she went on, she kept saying all these different things about, you know, the reason that HBCUs were created in the first place, and we don't allow them. And this is, again, in my opinion, this is fake, phony fraud, right? Now, and then she goes on to talk about Native Americans, and ICE has been rounding up, or Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans. Either she's being fed a line of junk or she's just making this stuff up, right? Because I've yet to see that person on CNN. I've yet to see that person showing their face and providing their name, saying, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm the Puerto Rican that was arrested by ICE. I'm the one that was detained. To me, sounds like fake, phony, and fraud. And I'll keep calling BS on that until. Because to say that this is what it is, right, that, you know, that Trump and the Republicans are just after everybody and they're just so nefarious, you got to do a little better than that, right? But Jasmine Crockett went on. She says that the Trump administration could care less about the Constitution. Check this out.
But right now we have an administration that could care less about what the courts say that they can do, that could care less about what the law says, that could care less about the Constitution. And so I think that we have to understand that we are not dealing with normal people. We are dealing with someone who is proven to be a criminal, proven to be disrespectful to us as Americans. And
disrespectful to Americans. Jasmine Crockett, she's got her shorts in a bunch. Let's go to Ziggy in Marseille, Illinois, WLS. Go for it, Ziggy. Your thoughts.
How you doing there, Mr. Rick Valdez?
Wonderful. Rich, how are you?
I've been calling you for like months. I listen to your station all the time. Here's my story. My family fought and died for the preservation of this country. We went over to other countries to free them from the harm that was coming to them. I got Purple Hearts here from my mother's brothers, my uncles. I got family coming back.
Grateful for their
long
service.
Time ago, I'm 66 years old, okay?
Okay.
I'm drug-free over 45 years. But I walked past the Purple Hearts, and it brings a tear to my eye. What did they die for? Protecting our country, protecting our young ladies, our babies here for freedom. Now we had Biden. Now we got Trump. Trump is our savior. Now I look at them Purple Hearts, and I know now what they died for is coming to justice. Because Trump, he's not going to fool around. I don't know what's going on in his mind, but I'll tell you what, he ain't no one to take for stupid. The elections that he lost, it was a good thing. He's got 4 years right now. He ain't even in office for 30 days. Look at the change he's making. And all these people here, and I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I didn't take no shit from nobody.
There we go. Well, anyway, Ziggy, let me say first that I think Jesus is our savior, at least mine. And Trump is definitely leading the charge to restore America. I believe in that, and to make America great again. The rest of it, listen, everybody serves for their purpose, right? To protect America, to provide service, to give back. And most of the men and women I know in uniform have always said that, you know, they quote Voltaire, right? And they may not agree with what you're saying, but they'll defend your right to say it. And I think that's part of what's so important here, is that whatever the reason be for people's service, we have to acknowledge that, right? We have to acknowledge that they served and that they died, and like your family members who've gotten those Purple Hearts and shed that blood. And we need to be grateful for that, and not lose sight of the sacrifice, not only your family, everybody else, right? Going back to day one of how this country was started, and realizing we're kind of all in this together, in my opinion. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And I think so many Americans want to see America in a better place. I think the fundamental disagreement that we have with our fellow Americans is that we don't see eye to eye on what a better place for America is, right? I have a friend that I feel like gets further and further to the left, and I'm sure she thinks I get further and further to the right every time we talk. But she constantly feels that America would be better if this, that, if that, you know. So many of the constant arguments you hear, the Constitution's living and breathing, you know, there's a white patriarchy, all of these things. Her own hardships as a Cuban American, you know, a woman of color, in her opinion, that has suffered a lot of hardship as an attorney coming up in the ranks, and again, this is her own experience, and I can't argue. You know, I've never been a woman, so I can't tell you how hard it is to be a woman trying to argue a case in front of a male judge. But I can tell you that there's countries where women can't become lawyers or judges or anything like that. So I think it's important to realize that we're going in the right direction, and let's keep going in the right direction. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is whatever so-and-so's reason was for serving this country, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for their service, for their sacrifice, because ultimately people did die. People did shed blood. And that's not something I want to take for granted or forget. And it's not something that I think that we should disrespect or dishonor in being so flippant, like you were mentioning with the DEI or transgender movement, you know, just trying to kind of reclaim so many things that were once cultural norms. I guess in saying that, people will say, oh, well, you're just, you know, trying to hold on to an America that once was. You're trying to go backwards. Perhaps I'm trying to go back to a time when, you know, it was Leave It to Beaver in America. I think it was a better America then. More people were doing better. And I'm not afraid to say I think we should go back to that. Ziggy in Marseille, Illinois, thank you for your call, brother. WLS. Folks, we come back. Your calls and more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And of course, all the things that are happening, the DOGE committee going after waste, fraud, and abuse. You've got President Trump, huge wins with Panama, with Canada, with Mexico. Yet the left just keeps asking about the price of eggs. And listen, everybody wants to know about the price of eggs, right? And if it weren't for this egg shortage, people wouldn't be paying so much. But this egg shortage is now causing the Waffle House chain to charge an extra 50 cents per egg. Yep. This is in thehill.com. This is crazy to me. Waffle House restaurants across the country are going to be adding a 50-cent surcharge to every egg ordered. So if you want 2 eggs, you're paying $1. Wow. And that's due to inflation and, of course, the bird flu epidemic. The surcharge took effect on Monday, according to Waffle House. And here's the quote. The continuing egg shortage caused by HPAI bird flu has caused a dramatic increase in egg prices. Consumers and restaurants are being forced to make difficult decisions. Effective February 3rd, Waffle House has implemented a temporary 50-cent per egg surcharge to all menus. Wow. In its memo, Waffle House said that the price hike is intended to be a temporary targeted surcharge tied to the unprecedented rise in egg prices, but did not indicate when the surcharge might be dropped. Sounds like what they did with the New Jersey Turnpike. Now, of course, you look at that and you think, well, if they're raising the already expensive price of eggs, people are going to just start stealing eggs. Well, you're right. That's exactly what happened. Looking at the New York Post right here, you got 100,000 eggs worth $40,000 were poached from Pennsylvania business as the country is dealing with eggflation. This is a report from the police. That's crazy. Pennsylvania State Police are scrambling, pardon the pun, to find the thieves who poached 100,000 organic eggs, which are worth about $40,000. That's crazy. The thieves cracked open the distribution trailer at Pete and Jerry's Organics in Greencastle on Saturday night and made off with the eggs, leaving the company shell-shocked. That's funny, according to the police. It's not funny, but it's funny, you know. Pete and Jerry's is aware of the recent incident in Franklin County, Pennsylvania, and they put out a statement about it. But, man, literally highway robbery on eggs over here. So there's a development on this. I'll bring you the update. But that's all I've got, folks. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. Straight ahead, you're going to hear my conversation with Dr. Carole Lieberman regarding the RFK first round of his confirmation. So, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.